that guy, Todd Chrisley still went on to phony up documents, and there was evidence to that even after this guy was no longer involved. So it's not just this guy who was doing all the sleazy stuff and then was pointing the finger at the Chrisleys, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the government's case the entire way, and the documents, they sort of had to do that. They had stolen out of a warehouse that they claimed was the Chrisleys. I mean, on that exact issue, those documents you're talking about, Anderson, the state of Georgia paid the Chrisleys $1 million for civil rights violations related to those documents.
Right, but that was part of your appeal.
It's a bizarre case.
That was part of your appeal, and again, it was a very thoughtful, smart appeal. But the court rejected it. The appellate court looked at it.
Yeah, and it rejected it because it said the attorneys at the time did not raise it soon enough. So the issue wasn't that they actually agreed these documents were properly admitted or their stuff the jury should have heard. They said, oh, the attorneys missed the deadline. And again, the trial attorneys made that mistake. We couldn't fix it.
But you're not denying the reality of these documents. I mean, these are documents which time after time show both Chrisleys lying in documents to get loans to spend millions of dollars, on whatever they're going to spend millions of dollars.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely true during 2007, 2008, that around the country, real estate professionals were trying to figure out how to extend loans. This is the time, you recall, of no-doc loans.
But wait a minute,
like Bear Stearns.
Right. But come on, these are not...
But we're talking about the actual context of when this is happening.
Do not falsify documents repeatedly, time and time again. I mean, it's extraordinary when you... I mean, I've gone through the superseding indictment. I've read the appellate court's ruling. I mean, in an August 14, 2012 sworn affidavit, Todd Chrisley falsely asserted that the co-conspirator, blaming the guy you're blaming, had used their accountant's stationery and signature without the knowledge or consent of Todd Chrisley or the accountant. However, approximately 3 months earlier, Chrisley emailed that guy saying, can you place this on the accountant's letterhead with his signature and then sign Julie's name below the accountant's address, the letter to whom it may concern. He's telling this guy, sign Julie's name, lie, make this up. And she repeatedly went applying for, to get an apartment. When was this? This was to rent a home in California in 2014. She submitted fabricated bank statements to the homeowner's realtor, including a City National Bank statement that showed an account balance more than $86,000 when she really had negative $14,000.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a great example, Anderson. She was alleged to have been lying about income relating to the rental of a home. And as a result, the court here put her in jail for 7 years. That is entirely disproportionate for what you see in cases like this.
This is one of dozens of things, though. I mean, they were cutting and allegedly they were convicted of cutting and pasting on financial documents to make it seem like they had
linking Julie to anything. The only thing linking Julie to anything are those documents you're talking about.
She was not involved in this LLC scam that they had going on.
Zero testimony about her at trial, none. And so, I think
in the superseding indictment, it does say that she was involved in that.
Yeah, and superseding indictment, they had no proof, and they didn't ever prove it up at trial. And I think that's sort of what's important about the pardon process, is because the prosecutors have a great deal of leverage to do things like cut deals with people, get people to say what you want them to say, have the benefit of many of the evidentiary rules. If a defense attorney misses a deadline, they get out of luck. And the pardon process is here to say, we don't think the end result was the correct one. And that's what the president did today. And so you can disagree with it.
You are not fundamentally, I mean, your appeal is not fundamentally that this evidence is not true, that all these faked documents were not faked. It's that this is a selective prosecution. It's that, this cooperating witness was really behind a lot of it. It's not the fundamental facts, which were, the phony documents, right?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I never had the chance to come in and have those fights, Anderson. The documents you're talking about, I wasn't the lawyer. I didn't get to challenge those things. And so when you come in and you look at a case, here the clearest thing to us was the selective prosecution, the fact that this would not have happened were they not celebrities. That's just the fact.
But you did get to appeal this, and the appeals court ruled, and I quote, "We affirm the district court on all issues except for the loss amount attributed to Julie," which the court then itself said was a narrow issue, and her subsequent resentencing ended up being the exact same.
Yeah, which was another issue that we were currently still appealing. And the issue we're talking about, the documents, we would have had to file more petitions to appeal because the attorneys had messed that up. So the process is long. President Trump has cut that process off. Ultimately, I think the question is, one of the things the pardon attorney or the pardon czar, Alice Johnson, has talked about is some of these decisions about pardons aren't necessarily about guilt and innocence. They're about how the process works and whether it should work this way. And I think ultimately the White House was convinced it didn't work the way it should have.
Just once they're out, how does it work? Allegedly they defrauded taxpayers because they were convicted of cheating on their taxes repeatedly and defrauding banks, and then they declared bankruptcy, so they didn't have to pay back banks. Do they have to pay back any money? Because I think there was,
what's so fascinating about that is so much of that had been resolved a decade before. It's sort of back to that question of why did this case start? Those sort of civil cases between the Chrisleys and the banks and how that was resolved. There were multiple civil resolutions before a criminal case ever happened. And so that's sort of been dealt with here between the banks and the family.
Alice Little, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Just as we were